For a league that witnessed the 1984, 1996, and 2003 draft classes, this 2024 draft class was heavily slept on. It was by far the least anticipated draft class in recent times. Nonetheless, the 2024 draft class is here, and the biggest winners and losers are costly like never before. We can all agree that there are no Wemby-like or LeBron-esque players. However, you all should know that there are hidden gems in this draft, some with the potential to be the face of the NBA. So sit back and relax as we give you a rundown of some of the biggest misses and acquisitions in the 2024 draft. With the 2023-2024 NBA season officially over, there is one thing we can all agree on, and it's that the 2023 NBA draft class was the gift that kept giving. From Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Brandon Podziemski, G.G. Jackson, and the Thompson twins' amazing performances in the regular season, to Chet Holmgren, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and Derek Lively too in the playoffs, NBA fans had a lot to watch out for. Well, it's over now. We have a new draft class, and it seems the 2024 draft class also has the potential to live up to that standard. One of the many names that'll surprise many is, in the 2024 draft, the San Antonio Spurs selected Rob Dillingham as the 8th pick, but he was eventually traded to the Timberwolves for a protected swap in 2030 and an unprotected first in 2031. Truth be told, the Minnesota Timberwolves won this trade, and the San Antonio Spurs lost a gem. Obviously, this is a very risky move by the Timberwolves, given the future draft capital it took to get the shifty guard. However, the Timberwolves definitely landed a gem, or should I say, won the draft. A few NBA stars seem to agree that he was the biggest steal of the draft. According to former NBA star Jeff Teague,
I think won the draft, though, and I heard some people say it, so I don't want to feel like I'm copying, but Timberwolves won the draft.
No, they most definitely won the draft.
Getting Rob Dillingham, that's the piece they was missing. A guy that can score off the bench. They needed a young point guard, but they also needed a scorer off the bench that can help AE, and he can get buckets.
Four-time NBA champion Draymond Green also agrees.
If I had to say who won the draft to me was the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the reason the Minnesota Timberwolves won the draft is because they drafted their point guard of the future in Rob Dillingham, who I think is a very special player who some of those teams at the top of the draft were afraid of.
We're talking about a Kyrie-like kind of guard that can score at all three levels. He's by far the best shot creator in the entire class. And who better to take pressure off Anthony Edwards in the backcourt than a shifty guard like Dillingham? Dillingham is a wonderful additional offensive threat to the Timberwolves rotation. I mean, what more could a team with the best defensive rating last year ask for? Anyway, while Rob Dillingham is an impressive addition to the Minnesota Timberwolves, the same can't be said of Milwaukee Bucks draft pick AJ Johnson. Not to disrespect the young and talented shooting guard, but he's one of the biggest reaches of the draft night. The 19-year-old 167-pound guard averaged 2.9 points per game last season, playing in the NBL. He was rarely played since he lacked strength, defensive prowess, and consistency. This isn't to say he isn't impressive though. AJ surely has the potential to be a big talent. Unfortunately, his selection is just all shades of wrong. And why? The Bucks have a bunch of superstars in their 30s who are trying to win a championship while they're still in their prime. And a 19-year-old inexperienced AJ Johnson is not gonna make them more competitive. AJ will undoubtedly prove to be a steal in the future. But if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, who just saw the Boston Celtics win a championship, you should be looking for a ready-made role player instead of a young prospect with little to no track record of actual production. Anyway, speaking of winners of the 2024 draft, who better to name than the number 1 pick? For the second year in a row, the NBA draft had a French player go number 1 on the draft pick. But is Zaccharie Risacher worth the hype? Is he the next Wemby? Impressive dunks, quick feet, the ability to shoot on the move, and a versatile defender. The Atlanta Hawks definitely landed a gem. At 6'9", 195 pounds, the small forward position size, athleticism, and shot making create a high floor and easy fit for the Hawks. Last season, he averaged 10.1 points and 3.8 rebounds in 32 Betclic Elite games, shooting 43.9% from the field and 35.2% from 3, and was named the Outstanding Young Player of France's top league. So far, many scouts and NBA fans have come to agree that he doesn't look like an immediate impact player like his fellow countryman Victor Wembanyama. However, he is projected to be a three-point threat and defensive stopper early next season. which is good news for the Hawks, who just lost DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans. Zaccharie Risacher is a perfect fit for the Atlanta Hawks, and NBA fans can only hope he lives up to the challenge of being a first overall pick. Luckily for Houston Rockets, the Atlanta Hawks are not the only team to land a perfect fit from the draft. For a young and rebuilding team like the Houston Rockets, who were one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league, they might have won on draft day when they selected not just the best shooter in this draft class, but one of the best shooters college basketball has ever seen, Reed Sheppard. Imagine a young player who makes more than half of his three-point attempts. That young talent is definitely the third overall pick for the 2024 draft, Reed Sheppard. In his single year in college, Sheppard averaged 12.5 points, 4.5 assists, 4.1 rebounds, and 2.5 steals a game, shooting 52.1% from three and making 83% of his free throws. He's an elite catch-and-shoot player. He can shoot on the move, has elite court vision, and is an impressive defender. So who better to land him than a team that desperately needs someone who can stretch the floor and knock down open shots? The Houston Rockets. Sheppard definitely makes them a playoff team, but unfortunately the same can't be said of the Detroit Pistons. From a talent standpoint, the fifth pick makes a lot of sense. 6'8", 195-pound power forward Ron Holland has been a top prospect for most of his life. He was the leading scorer for Team USA at the 2021 FIBA Americas U16 Championship and has 2 gold medals with USA Basketball. He has great versatility, and according to many scouts, he's the best defensive prospect in this draft class. Ron Holland possesses a rare combination of defensive ability and high motor, more than you could hope to find in a top prospect. Sadly, he's just not the perfect fit for the Detroit Pistons. In 2022, the Detroit Pistons drafted Jaden Ivey, and later in 2023, drafted Oscar Thomas. And so far, both of them have struggled with their shooting. And if there's one thing Holland also has a problem with, it is his shooting. The Detroit Pistons have so far assembled a team of young, bad shooters, which isn't a good look for a team that's won just 24.5% of its games in more than half a decade. This is a team that over the last 5 years has been dead last in the league, and the margin between them and 29th place team over that time frame is about the same as the gap between 29th and 16th. Nonetheless, Ron Holland's addition is not a great fit for the Pistons. Last season, Holland shot only 24% from three and just 72.8% from the line. He's never been a productive shooter, so the Pistons drafting him makes little sense. I mean, after all these years of bad basketball, the Pistons decide to add another rookie with shooting troubles. Well, if it's any consolation, the Detroit Pistons won't be the only team that will need a miracle for their roster construction. The Portland Trail Blazers also rank high among the losers of the 2024 NBA draft after they made the 7th pick of the night. Former UConn center Donovan Clingan is an automatic rim protector. The big man averaged 12.9 points, 7.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 2.5 blocks in his 2 seasons with the Huskies. However, Clingan would have been a great fit for the Blazers if they didn't already have another 7-foot center earning almost $70 million over the next 2 seasons, DeAndre Ayton. Together, Ayton and Clingan can form a twin tower, with Clingan primarily defending the rim and Ayton thriving as a roamer. However, this lineup leaves the team's offense slow and unathletic. Not to mention that even though Ayton's offensive game is more refined than Clingan's, at least at this point, their style of play is way too similar. Ayton will be 26 years old next season, yet hasn't fully developed his jumper, and isn't a good playmaker to help Clingan score in the post. So why add Clingan, who's so similar? Well, I guess we'll all have to find out. Still in the centers of the 2024 draft, the Memphis Grizzlies made sure to not make the same mistake that the Pistons and Blazers made. Looking back, nothing could be more of a perfect fit than Zach Edey and the Memphis Grizzlies. In the past 2 seasons, no one has been as dominant as Zach Edey in college basketball. You can very well call him the new day Shaquille O'Neal. Standing at 7'4" with a 7'11" wingspan and 9'7" standing reach, it's no surprise that he was a 2-time National Player of the Year. He's not as skilled as Embiid or Jokic, but he is a double-double machine. In his last 2 years of college, he averaged 23.8 points on 61.6% field goal, 12.5 rebounds, 2.1 blocks, and 1.8 assists per game. Zach Edey has a knack for offensive rebounding and putbacks, and at a 70.9% career free throw percentage, he's a dependable free throw shooter. The Memphis Grizzlies and Zach Edey are a perfect fit. He's joining a team that has Ja Morant, who can create easier shots for him than he's ever had before, and a team that has a former Defensive Player of the Year in Jaren Jackson Jr., who will support him on defense alongside some amazing perimeter defenders. This is just something to watch out for, and Stephen A. Smith couldn't agree less.
Here's what we got to monitor. It's a good pick for the Memphis Grizzlies for this reason. The four previous seasons before last year, they were big time with points in the paint. Last season, they were dead last. Ja Morant only played 9 games. Yeah. He'll be back. You know he's the focal point, okay? But you need a big to give you some kind of presence and can generate some points in the paint at some point, okay? That's why you make this pick. I totally understand it. I agree with you. I'm surprised he went this high, but I totally understand why they did it, because they gave you – Jaren Jackson needs help down there, no doubt about it.
That's enough talk about the first round of the draft. On to the biggest name of the 2024 NBA draft, Bronny James. The two-way guard and son of Los Angeles Lakers superstar LeBron James was the biggest news of the 2024 draft. Will the son of arguably the greatest player of all time live up to his father's name? How will he complement his father as a teammate? There are just too many questions, and among these questions, one thing is true. He is not as good as his father was at his age. However, he is NBA ready. He has the type of athleticism, selfless passing ability, and defensive tenacity that's similar to his father, and that's something to look forward to. As a freshman at USC, he was underwhelming as a shooter and shot creator, as he averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game, while shooting 36.6% from the field and 26.7% from three-point range. However, it's important to remember that before his cardiac arrest, he was a top projected pick. And even if he isn't good offensively, he has the potential to be one of the league's best perimeter defenders. We just have to wait and see how good he turns out to be among his draft class. In fact, we'll have to wait and see how this entire draft class turns out to be. Obviously, this is not the 2003 draft class that had LeBron, Carmelo, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, or the 1984 draft class that had Michael Jordan, John Stockton, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Charles Barkley. Nor is it the 1996 draft class that had Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, Allen Iverson, and Steve Nash. However, you can tell that this draft class has the potential to be among the greatest. Even if there was no hype surrounding them, they're an impressive group of players, and their addition to the league is something to look forward to. What do you think about this draft class? Do you see them surprising everyone? Let me know in the comments section. What's up, NBA fam? Buckle up, because this offseason has been a wild ride. We've seen teams make bold moves, shaking up the entire landscape of the league. But with the dust settling, the question remains, who are the real winners and losers in this free agency frenzy? Let's talk about the elephant in the room first, the champion Boston Celtics. They've locked down their young core, giving Jason Tatum the biggest contract in NBA history and extending Derek White. With the new apron rules making it harder to build a super team, it feels like Boston might be on the cusp of a dynasty. Other teams are definitely taking notice and scrambling to find ways to counter their dominance. Now, let's dive into some of the biggest trades of the summer and analyze their potential impact. Did these moves solidify contenders, propel dark horses into the title picture, or were they risky bets that might backfire? First off, we've got the Dallas Mavericks getting Klay Thompson. Now, the pros here are that there is undeniable championship pedigree. We all remember Game 6 Klay, and even after a less than stellar final season with the Warriors, Thompson remains a potent scoring threat from beyond the arc. He still averaged a respectable 38.7% from 3 on a high volume of attempts last year, 9 per game. Shooters of his caliber are a rare breed, and his spacing will create opportunities for Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to work their magic. There are some downsides though, like his declining defense. Klay just isn't the lockdown defender he once was. His lateral movement isn't what it used to be. This will undoubtedly weaken the Mavericks' defense, especially compared to the defensive presence they lose in Derrick Jones Jr. Additionally, guarding bigger small forwards, a role he'll likely see often, could be a challenge. Questions also linger about his shot selection, which was horrendous at times with the Warriors last year. Overall grade here, B+. Next up, we have the Philadelphia 76ers getting Paul George. The good here is that he is unquestionably a well-rounded talent, even though he doesn't quite match his peak OKC form. PG-13 brings a potent combination of scoring, shooting, and defensive versatility. He can even orchestrate the offense when Embiid and Maxey are sidelined. The Sixers desperately needed more firepower on the wing, and George's skill set has the potential to unlock even greater offensive potential in both Maxey and Embiid. It ain't all peachy here though. He's got an injury history and playoff struggles are a major concern here. We all know about the nickname Playoff P, and adding another player with a questionable postseason track record alongside Embiid might not be the most ideal recipe for success. Furthermore, his hefty contract for a 34-year-old player is a significant financial commitment. Overall, we're looking at a B grade. Third up, we have New York Knicks getting Mikal Bridges. The benefits here are clear. It is a perfect fit for Tibbs' system. Mikal Bridges is an excellent defender, a solid shooter, and a decent playmaker. He hasn't missed a single game since entering the league. With the Knicks' injury history, that's something worth noting. Alongside OG Anunoby, he'll be a huge help for the Knicks in containing the likes of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Additionally, they got the last member of that Villanova squad. This reunion goes beyond just familiarity. All four of these players, Bridges, Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo, were instrumental in Villanova's national championship run. Talk about a championship pedigree. However, we are looking at an expensive contract. The Knicks had to give up a whopping 5 first-round picks in a 7-year span to acquire Bridges. This is a clear sign that the Knicks are in win-now mode, but for a player who's never even been an All-Star. They also had to part ways with Bogdan Bogdanovic, a solid player, even though he wasn't getting a ton of minutes in New York. Overall, I'd give New York taking McCall a B+. Let's move over to OKC Thunder getting Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. This twofer has some serious pros. Alex Caruso is an exceptional 3-and-D player and one of the best defensive guards in the league, earning a spot on the all-defensive second team last year. He's a team player who will seamlessly fit into OKC's offensive and defensive schemes. Regarding Hartenstein, he's another fantastic acquisition for the Thunder. They needed size, rebounding, and paint protection, and he delivers all three at a high level. He was ranked in the top 10 for defensive impact last season. While he might not perfectly fit OKC's 5-out offense, he compensates with excellent high post passing, a reliable mid-range shot, and a soft touch around the rim. His pick-and-roll defense is decent enough to allow the Thunder to start him alongside Chet Holmgren against bigger teams. But for the downsides, well, it's tough finding cons for the Caruso trade. Essentially, they exchanged Edey, who struggled with spacing issues and was benched in the Dallas series, for Caruso, who shot 41% from 3 last year and 38% for his career. On the defensive end, it's a complete turnaround. Edey's defensive struggles are a thing of the past with Caruso, a proven all-defensive talent, now in the fold. One could argue that OKC overpaid for Hartenstein, but he was in high demand this summer and would have received similar offers elsewhere. The addition of these two players will inevitably alter OKC's rotation, but both Caruso and Hartenstein are team-oriented players who will integrate well. Overall, fantastic trade. I'm going to give this a grade of A. Moving on to Orlando Magic getting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. This is looking advantageous because the Magic desperately needed help from beyond the arc, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope brings exactly that. He's a proven three-point threat, boasting a career average of 37.8% and an impressive 40.6% mark last season. Beyond shooting, KCP brings invaluable leadership to a young team hungry for success. His championship rings from both the Lakers and Nuggets infuse the Magic with veteran presence and a winning mentality. Opponents shot a league-worst 40.6% when guarded closely by him last season, among players defending at least 500 shots. And he's a true 3-and-D guard. On the other hand, while KCP's shooting is a major upgrade, it's not a cure-all for the Magic's problems. The team still has significant weaknesses in playmaking, shot creation, and rim protection. Adding one sharpshooter won't solve all their offensive woes. The Magic invested quite heavily, signing him to a 3-year, $66 million contract. While his contributions are valuable, this is quite a hefty price tag for a 31-year-old player that only averaged 10.1 points last year. When we look at the good and the bad here, I'm going to give it an overall grade of B+. Finally, New Orleans Pelicans get DeJounte Murray. On the pros list, we've got DeJounte Murray being a good defender and a solid playmaker. He's also significantly improved his shooting 36.3% from 3 on 7 attempts per game, compared to his career average of 34.5% on 3.4 attempts. Murray will be a strong point of attack defender for the Pelicans. And that's where the good news ends. There are some serious concerns about his fit with the Pelican squad. Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and now Murray all thrive with the ball in their hands, and none of them is really a spot-up shooter. Ingram likes to run pick and rolls and shoot off the dribble mid-range shots, similar to McCollum and Murray. The issue is that there's only one ball on the floor, which could lead to conflicts in playstyle and ball distribution. Additionally, it appears that Ingram might not be part of the team's long-term plans, as the Pelicans have yet to offer him a max extension and have now traded for Murray. Overall, not looking too good. I'm going to give this one a C+. On a brighter note though, the upcoming season promises to be an exciting one, with young stars developing and teams vying for supremacy. The moves made this offseason will have a major impact on the championship race, and only time will tell who truly emerges as a winner or loser in this wild free agency frenzy. Did your favorite team's offseason moves make the cut? Let us know in the comments who you support and what moves you're most excited about. We'll be sure to take a closer look at them in a future video. If you liked the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more.